Hey babe, and anybody else watching, and welcome back to A Life Together. Today we are finishing off Numbers, which means 34, 35, and 36 today. If you remember yesterday, we were looking at those Transjordan tribes, people of Israel who said, hey, we want to stay here on this side. This is where we want our lands. And Moses came back to him and said, well, man, don't you remember what God did when we didn't want to move into the promised land? And they said, okay, that's absolutely fine. We'll cross over. And when everyone else receives their inheritance on this side, we'll return to the side we started on and our lands will be there. So Moses agreed to that. And then we also looked at Israel's journey so far, what has led them to this point. Closing out Numbers, we are going to be looking at the boundaries of Canaan. We'll be looking at Levite towns, cities of refuge, some really interesting stuff right there. And then also the inheritance of Zelophehad's daughters. We talked about that a couple days ago, but we'll return to that. So again, Numbers 34, 35, and 36 are going to finish off the book. So, chapter 34. The Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites and say to them, when you enter Canaan, the land that will be allotted to you as an inheritance will have these boundaries. Your southern side will include some of the desert of Zin along the border of Edom. On the east, your southern boundary will start from the end of the Salt Sea, cross south of Scorpion Pass, continue on to Zin, and go south towards Kadesh Barnea. Then it will go to Hazar Adar and over to Asmon, where it will turn, join the Wadi of Egypt, and end at the sea. Your western boundary will be the coast of the Great Sea. This will be your boundary on the west. For your northern boundary, run a line from the Great Sea to Mount Hor, and from Mount Hor to Lebo Hamath. Then the boundary will go to Zedad, continue to Zephiron, and end at Hazar Anan. This will be your boundary for the north. For your eastern boundary, run a line from Hazar Anan to Shephem. The boundary will go down from Shephem to Riblah on the east side of Ain, and continue along the slopes east of the Sea of Kinnereth. Then the boundary will go down along the Jordan and will end at the Salt Sea. This will be your land, with its boundaries on every side." Moses commanded the Israelites, "Assign this land by lot as an inheritance. The Lord has ordered that it be given to the 9.5 tribes, because the families of the tribes of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance. These 2.5 tribes have received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan of Jericho, toward the sunrise." The Lord said to Moses, "These are the names of the men who are to assign the land for you as an inheritance: Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun. And appoint one leader from each tribe to help assign the land. These are their names: Caleb son of Jephunneh from the tribe of Judah, Shalumiel son of Ammihud from the tribe of Simeon, Elidad son of Kislon from the tribe of Benjamin, Buki son of Jogli from the leader from the tribe of Dan, Haniel son of Ephod from the leader of the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, Kemuel son of Shipatan, the leader from the tribe of Ephraim, son of Joseph, Elizaphan son of Panarch, the leader of the tribe of Zebulun, Paltiel son of Azan, the leader from the tribe of Issachar, Ahihud son of Shiliomai, the leader from the tribe of Asher, Pedahiel son of Ammihud, the leader from the tribe of Naphtali. These are the men the Lord commanded to assign the inheritance to the Israelites in the land of Canaan. Chapter 35. On the plains of Moab, by the Jordan across from Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites to give the Levites towns to live in, from the inheritance the Israelites will possess, and give them pasture lands around the towns. Then they will have towns to live in and pasture lands for their cattle, flocks, and all their other livestock. The pasture lands around the towns that you give the Levites will extend out 1,500 feet from the town wall. Outside the town, measure 3,000 feet on the east side, 3,000 on the south side, 3,000 on the west, and 3,000 on the north, with the town in the center. They will have this area as pasture land for the towns. 6 of the towns you give the Levites will be cities of refuge, to which a person who has killed someone may flee. In addition, give them 42 other towns. In all, you must give the Levites 48 towns, together with their pasture lands. The towns you give the Levites from the land the inheritance possess are to be given in proportion to the inheritance of each tribe. Take many towns from a tribe that has many, but few from the one that has few." Then the Lord said to Moses, Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, select some of the towns to be your cities of refuge, to which a person who has killed someone accidentally may flee. They will be places of refuge from the avenger, so that a person accused of murder may not die before he stands trial before the assembly. These 6 towns you give will be your cities of refuge. Give 3 on this side of the Jordan and 3 in Canaan as cities of refuge. These 6 towns will be a place of refuge for the Israelites, aliens, and any other people living among them, so that anyone who has killed another accidentally can flee there. If a man strikes someone with an iron object so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. Or if anyone has a stone in his hand that could kill, and he strikes someone so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. Or if anyone has a wooden object in his hand that could kill, and he hits someone so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death. When he meets him, he shall put him to death. If anyone with malice aforethought shoves another or throws something at him intentionally so that he dies, or if in hostility he hits him with his fists so that he dies, that person shall be put to death. He is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death when he meets him. But if, without hostility, someone suddenly shoves another or throws something at him unintentionally, or without seeing him drops a stone on him that could kill him, and he dies, then, since he was not his enemy and he did not intend to harm him, the assembly must judge between him and the avenger of blood, according to these regulations. The assembly must protect the one accused of murder from the avenger of blood and send him back to the city of refuge to which he fled. He must stay there until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the holy oil. But if the accused ever goes outside the limits of the city of refuge to which he has fled, and the avenger of blood finds him outside the city, the avenger of blood may kill the accused without being guilty of murder. The accused must stay in the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. Only after the death of the high priest may he return to his own property. These are to be legal requirements for you throughout the generations to come, wherever you live. Anyone who kills a person is to be put to death as a murderer only on the testimony of witnesses. But no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. Do not accept ransom for the life of a murderer who deserves to die. He must surely be put to death. Do not accept ransom for anyone who has fled to a city of refuge, and so allow him to go back and live on his own land before the death of the high priest. Do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land, and atonement cannot be made for the land on which blood has been shed, except by the blood of one who shed it. Do not defile the land where you live and where I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell among the Israelites. Chapter 36. The family heads of the clan of Gilead, son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, who were from the clans of the descendants of Joseph, came and spoke before Moses and the leaders, the heads of the Israelite families. They said, when the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land as an inheritance to the Israelites by lot, he ordered you to give his inheritance to our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. Now, suppose they marry men from other Israelite tribes, then their inheritance will be taken from our ancestral inheritance and added to that of the tribe they marry into. And so part of the inheritance allotted to us will be taken away. When the year of Jubilee for the Israelites comes, their inheritance will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and their property will be taken from the tribal inheritance of our forefathers. Then, at the Lord's command, Moses gave this order to the Israelites. What the tribe of the descendants of Joseph is saying is right. This is what the Lord commands for Zelophehad's daughters. They may marry anyone they please, as long as they marry within the tribal clan of their father. No inheritance in Israel is to pass from tribe to tribe, for every Israelite shall keep the tribal land inherited from his forefathers. Every daughter who inherits the land in any Israelite tribe must marry someone in her father's tribal clan, so that every Israelite will possess inheritance of his father's. No inheritance may pass from tribe to tribe, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. So, Zelophehad's daughters did just as the Lord commanded Moses. Zelophehad's daughters, Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, married their cousins on their father's side. They're married within their clans of the descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, and their clan inheritance remained in their father's clan and tribe. These are the commands and regulations the Lord gave through Moses to the Israelites on the plains of Moab by the Jordan, across from Jericho. When I was looking at this, I know we've talked about Zelophehad's daughters before, but when looking at this, I'm always interested in the cities of refuge and how God makes a distinction through Moses. And God says, hey, I want to have these cities of refuge to where someone can flee if someone is killed accidentally, not murdered, but killed. And I mean, I think it's so interesting that we see just aspects, just little vestiges of how great and how perfect a judge God is. I mean, when we look at the commandments, it doesn't say, thou shalt not kill. It says, thou shalt not murder. I mean, if we were to look at that, we'd say, well, what's the difference with that? Well, number one, God has called judgment on these tribes. I mean, we looked at the Midianites and we've looked at other people that the Lord has used the Israelites as an instrument of his judgment to bring on the other peoples. And there's killing involved. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not washing and cleansing involved. God says, hey, if you've done that, if you've touched a dead body, or if you've come in contact in any way with that, then recognize that blood has been shed. There was a price that has been paid because of my wrath on these peoples. And because you've brought that, you've still killed someone. But I allowed that, essentially, and I wanted you to do that because you're an instrument of my judgment. But for this, he's making a distinction between murder with malice aforethought. So I've been so angry, I've built up this anger that I've thrown something at you, I've hit you with a rock or a stone with the intent to harm you or kill you. And God is saying, hey, that's different than if something is an accident or was not intentional. And we look at that and say, man, there are judges out there and juries that try and figure out, hey, what was the intent behind this? And also we see that a bit here too, but we know that God is the perfect judge for that. He knows the intent of everyone's heart. And I think that brought me great confidence, knowing that I don't always have to trust my own judgment because my judgment is flawed. But I'm coming back to Christ at every opportunity and saying, thank you for your sacrifice. Now I can approach God. God, thank you for sending your son, Christ, to be that mediator so that I can rely on you, the perfect judge. Worth praying about. God, we thank you that you are the perfect judge, that even though we may not always know what to do, Lord, you make the perfect distinction of what is right and just and good and holy. You are the one we trust, Lord. Remind us of that you are the perfect judge. And we thank you so much that we have that not because of our own doing, but because you sent Jesus for us on our behalf to die and yet to be raised again. We thank you so, so much for it, Lord. And it's in his name we pray. Amen. And that is about all I have for you today. Know that I appreciate you so much. And wife, appreciate you tons. And I will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.